tried to bar President Trump from the Colorado ballot using an unconstitutional maneuver that is a bastardization of the 14th Amendment to our U.S. Constitution. This was a provision, Section 3, that was designed to bar Confederate members, people who switched to the Confederacy, from actually being able to serve. That's very different than what's at issue here, to say the least. This is a hollowed out husk of what the country was built on. The basic principle that we, the people, select our leadership, not the unelected elite class in the back of palace halls. That's old world Europe, not the United States. That's why I'm making a pledge today that I will withdraw. I pledge to withdraw from the Colorado GOP primary ballot unless and until Trump's name is restored. And I demand that Ron DeSantis and Chris Christie and Nikki Haley do the same thing, or else these Republicans are simply complicit in this unconstitutional attack on the way we conduct our constitutional republic. I refuse to be complicit in that. I think what they're doing is wrong. And I think it's up to Republicans to step up and stand up with a spine for our country's future. That's really what's at stake, whether we, the people, actually have a say in deciding who leads this country. Yes, it would be easier for other Republicans like me who are running in this race to say, hey, if Trump is sidelined, there's our opportunity. No doubt other candidates are probably privately celebrating with their corporate sponsors. That's not the right thing to do. I think the most useful thing that every GOP candidate can do right now is to join me in that pledge. I'll say that I will withdraw from that Colorado GOP primary ballot until Trump's name is restored. This belongs to the people, not to the unelected Democratic cabal of judges in Colorado or any other state. And I demand that Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and Chris Christie do the same thing, or else they're complicit in what this security state is trying to do to shut down Trump. I stand by that, and I expect them to do the right thing.
He is a self-hating, disgusting, puny, welcome. I don't know why she played that, because it just certain things just makes your blood boil. I mean, if he might as well have sat there and said, listen, I desperately want to be Trump's vice president. And that's what this is all about. It's just, oh gosh. And it's we got a year of this left. We got 11 months of this left to talk about this nonsense. But what is not nonsense is that Donald Trump has been kicked off the ballot in Colorado. They've given him an out, though, and we'll talk about that. But the significance of him getting kicked off the ballot and why those judges did it, it cannot be overstated. We're going to get into that this morning. The 118th Congress also has proven to be the least most productive Congress in history. Yesterday, President Biden signed in 2 more bills into law, making it 22 bills that they have passed and had signed into law this year. And wait till you understand what some of those bills were. Really perfunctory items, like naming a street after someone. They did nothing. It's the least productive Congress ever. Think about that when you talk about who you want in this position or who you don't want. Also, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, we teased this a little bit yesterday. They launched a national law enforcement accountability database to advance police reform. We'll discuss that this morning. And a new Texas law will allow authorities to just simply lock up folks who enter Texas from Mexico or other places. And New York has become the latest state to join the bandwagon of passing bills to set up studies to examine potential reparations for formerly enslaved African Americans. We'll discuss that as well. And maybe the biggest story of the day, perhaps of the year, a judge has ordered the names of Jeffrey Epstein's associates to be unsealed. Who's on the list? As Hollywood and the political world shudder as they wait in anticipation. I know Austin's not on that list.
Absolutely.
That's why he's with us this morning.
Absolutely not. I got a lot of problems, but that ain't one. Good morning, brother.
How you doing? Austin Cooper's with us. We always appreciate you, Austin. Are
Well,
you I take it you are in the United States?
I am in the United States in my home in Oxon Hill, Maryland, not going anywhere except to see my mama in Philadelphia for Christmas.
Look
Yeah.
at that. And so when are you leaving?
Thursday. I'm
Okay.
sorry, not Thursday. Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just drive up on Saturday and come back probably Tuesday and be here to bring in the new year.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna stay the weekend there.
Yep.
Oh, very good. Very good. See, you going up to Philly. I was thinking maybe me and you will hook up a little bit for a little bit. Maybe I can indoctrinate you into a Knick game or something like that. We can go up to New York and
Now
have a
that
few
now that is enticing. You
throw a
and I got
few
to talk.
back. I mean, mom is not that important, is she?
No, 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 no. Mom will understand.
She'll understand.
She'll be like, who's Stacy? And I say, here, talk to him directly, Mom.
Oh, yes, indeed. Listen, I always say, give me the interview.
Oh no.
If I get the interview, I'm getting the job. Austin, lots going on. Supreme Court, Colorado Supreme Court made history with an unprecedented freeze in your tracks ruling that the twice impeached, 4 times indicted former President Donald Trump is constitutionally ineligible to run in 2024 because the 14th Amendment bans insurrectionists from holding public office. And they say it covers his conduct on January 6th. Now, it was a 4-3 decision. So the dissenting judge's opinions he's going to certainly use going forward.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And as we saw Vivek Ramaswamy and his spiel about it.
Yeah, I mean, give me a break. Vivek Ramaswamy is not going to win in any state. So who cares whether he's on the ballot or not on the ballot anywhere? He's not going to get. He's not going to win any primaries. So all this is as you said at the very beginning, auditioning for the VP slot, which is not going to happen. I just cannot
I can't see Trump
imagine.
picking
I
him
can't
as VP.
imagine Trump naming any minority, including Nikki Haley, to be his number 2. I can see him potentially having a position. He and Ambassador Haley having a position in the cabinet or something. But I would be very surprised if he chose either of them to be his number 2 pick. And I mean, it's very clearly stated in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it unconstitutional if it's in the Constitution?
So here's the argument. That's a good question. And the argument was that if you look at the Constitution, it mentions congressmen, it mentions senators, it mentions those who election workers, poll workers, but it does not mention the president. And that was the lower court's argument, the first judge's argument, who sided with Trump. And that is in the dissent that the 3 judges who went against this decision mentioned as well.
Do you believe that even if the word president had been mentioned in that clause of the Constitution, that these 3 conservative judges would have ruled otherwise? I don't. I don't. And when the Constitution was being written, when they wrote the words, Congress and the other, positions and or titles that they specified, even then, I mean, who would have imagined that a president of the United States would be an insurrectionist against his own country? I mean, 3 years later, we just a little more than a week, 2 weeks out from January 6th. 3 years, and it's still hard to believe that a sitting president. And that, also points out the hypocrisy of Ramaswamy and everybody else who are complaining about this. Now, all of a sudden, let the people decide, not the courts. Well, the people decided in November of 2020, and they decided by several million votes that Joe Biden had won. And some of these very same Republicans had nothing to say about it and supported the insurrection and continue to support the insurrection, even though some of those Republicans who were initially opposed to the insurrection now support what happened on January 6th.
Well, David Youngblood says the quote, the part about no person is all encompassing, so it should
Yes,
apply to
yes,
the
yes.
president. But here's Power 96 says that will be overturned in Trump's U.S. Supreme Court 6-3. So here's the thing with what he's saying about it being overturned. So number one, before we even get to the U.S. Supreme Court, the justices in Colorado agreed to pause their ruling so Trump can appeal to the Supreme Court, which could preserve his spot on the primary if the appeal isn't heard and settled quickly. So what are the odds, Austin, that this U.S. Supreme Court, which may not want, because they're under so much scrutiny right now, not that they really care, because they probably, Thomas doesn't care, but they're under so much scrutiny, right? Maybe they punt until after the primary. Maybe they punt until next term.
And it could be that some of the justices are. Remember, they said earlier this year or last year. I'm paraphrasing here, but basically, stop asking the court to do what you should be doing as legislators. There could be some of that with some of the justices. They could be, and I'm speaking of the conservative ones. They could be looking for, frankly, political cover from these from these judges and from these candidates. But to your original point, this will do is a form of delay by the court, and they have so much on their plate already. When are they going to come around to this? I mean, even if they decided this today, I mean, we're a year out, 11 months out from the election. And American democracy is so far behind the 8 ball, 11 months out, that it just feels like it's almost too late.
Yeah, and these prosecutions may turn out to be too late too.
Exactly.
Mike V makes a point here. He's and I want your response to it, Austin. He says, I would think that anyone contributing financially at this point should be seen as terrorist financing, and should have sanctions put on them. I mean, all the scrutiny over Black Lives Matter. Why not MAGA funding?
Absolutely. Agree 200%.
Yeah, because so you got the state Supreme Court has found that his actions was that of an insurrectionist, a president committed insurrection is what they essentially the Colorado Supreme Court ruled 4-3, and that he shouldn't be on the ballot. They also mentioned his speech at the ellipsis, right, inciting the insurrection is what they decided. They determined this. These are 4 judges determined this. 4 state Supreme Court justices determined this. So to Mike V's point, he's essentially an insurrectionist. Is there any difference between an insurrectionist and a terrorist?
None.
So he's essentially what Mike V is pointing out here.
I couldn't agree with Mike more. And you just cited the president's insurrectionist and treasonous comments on the ellipse on January 6th. But how many he's only doubled down in the last 3 years. Now he's not once but twice, maybe even 3 times. It's openly, publicly talking about being a dictator when he comes into office. He's using Hitler-like terminology. Immigrants are poisoning the American bloodstream or whatever craziness that he said last night and also again last weekend. So I mean, what more do we need? If he does indeed get back in, none of us should be surprised at the downward direction that this country goes in, because we have been adequately warned, not by his political opponents, not by Democrats, not by we have been warned by him.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, we have been warned by him. He has not tried to be diplomatic in his commentary. He's saying what's on his mind, and we'd better believe him.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was interesting too what this court did. I mentioned the ellipse speech, and Trump had always proclaimed that, oh, if anything, it's free speech, and the court said no, that speech was not protected by the First Amendment. And I thought that was very interesting because now so usually when you get these rulings, you give them these are precedent-setting rulings. So when other courts have to look at it, David can weigh in on this as well. But when other courts have to look at cases, what do they generally do? They look at precedent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the state Supreme Court in Colorado did what others failed to do, and that is
Absolutely.
say, hey, it is what it is. I mean,
Exactly.
don't let your eyes deceive you. I mean, don't let people tell you what your eyes have seen.
Exactly. And he's done such a good job of convincing far too many Americans that what they know is not true. What they know in their gut is not true. What they hear him say, he didn't really say, though. He didn't mean what he just said. No, he means everything. If anything, Donald Trump, is a man of his crazy words. He's a man of his crazy ideology.
Mhm.
And I have no problem, with the Trump supporters assembling, on the ellipse on the morning of January 6th. That's their constitutional right to do so. I had no problem with them, walking up to the Capitol and peacefully, protesting. That was their right as Americans, but they lost their right as Americans, and they all became treasonous when they, broke into the Capitol, which was illegal. When they assaulted, killed, all of the nonsense that they did. That's when they became treasonous. And you cannot. I think 1,000 have been arrested and are serving time now. There are others who need to be arrested and who need to be put into prison. Because guess what? Had that been Black Lives Matter, first of all, they wouldn't have gotten into the Capitol. I mean, they would have gotten perhaps on the Capitol grounds, but that would not have happened. Breaking windows and all of that. That simply would not have happened. So it's it's always a double standard.
And no doubt
here in
somebody would have
America.
gotten the federal death penalty.
Oh, please, absolutely, absolutely.
But here, to your point too, the Colorado, this is word for word. Just give me, I'm going to give you one sentence. What they wrote: President Trump incited. This is their words. President Trump incited and encouraged the use of violence and lawless action to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power. That is from the Colorado Supreme Court.
And how can anyone objectively, disagree with that statement? If Donald Trump had told those people, okay, go home, we've taken this as far as we can, those idiots would have gone home. But
Well,
he
you
told them to
remember,
go to the Capitol, and they went to the Capitol with the belief that he expected them to storm the Capitol and by any means necessary to stop the counting of those electoral ballots.
And as David Youngblood highlights, that as soon as they broke through those barriers, they became criminals of varying degrees, from trespassing to insurrection.
Exactly.
So there's no way around that at all. You had children and spouses turning in parents and husbands and wives.
Yep.
It was that bad. Because even some family members was like, wait a minute, that's just too far. I get it. We all get it. Whoever you're for Trump. And I get it. You're going down there to stand by Trump. But what you did, we can't live with that. I mean, they had one case where a son turned in his father.
His father, yeah, I saw that.
And I think the father got like 16 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like
I think there was an ex-wife who
And
turned
ex-wife.
in who
Oh,
turned in her.
Lord, listen. Those
he
exes, you
he
gotta
should
watch
have,
your back.
he should have reconciled whatever it was, because
You
now
gotta
he's
watch your
in
back.
now
You
he's
can't
in
be
prison.
committing no insurrection
But
when you got an ex-wife.
Stacey, I don't believe for 1 second that Trump ever really intended to go to the Capitol.
Oh no.
I mean, I think that he acted a fool in the Beast. I do believe that he assaulted a
Mhm.
president of the United States, assaulted a member of his own Secret Service
Yes, he did.
detail. But I don't think he had any intentions of going to the Capitol. Once again, he let his idiotic disciples do his dirty work, and he's free, and many of them are in prison or facing jail time.
The son and the father from Texas, Power 96 says, and Mike V highlights that the night before Trump used DHS to arrest Black Lives Matters protests outside the White House with picket signs and used DHS drones to monitor their movement. He says, so much for big government infringing on their constitutional rights.
Thank
So
you.
you had that situation as well. So you're right. I mean, we all know what you said is 100% true. No, who can in any way offer any credible denial to what you said about if it was Black Lives or any other protesters that had nothing to do with Trump? If it was if it was the other way around, they were protesting. If they were going to the Capitol to protest for Biden, say Biden lost. Come on.
I mean, look at what they did that day when he marched from the White House to St. John's Episcopal Church, and what they did to some of the the Black protesters who were peacefully protesting. And look what happened to them just before he held the Holy Bible upside down.
And they say I'm petty. Austin don't let anything go. Y'all notice that, right? He doesn't miss anything. Holding the Bible upside down. Who does that?
A sinner.
Sounds more like Judas.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, hey, Austin. Here's the thing. So speaking of Congress and Capitol Hill, only 22 bills have made it into law in 2023 with this 118th Congress, which of course is controlled by Republicans in the House and Democrats in the Senate. It is the most or the least productive Congress in history. It goes all the way back to 1931. Back then, Herbert Hoover was president, and the Great Depression had started, and you had those silent films going on. They were still new. So that's the last time that Congress had been inactive like this. It's even Chip Roy had said last month, and this is the Republican out of Texas, and he's part of the group in the House that has stopped several spending bills from advancing to the Senate. But he says, one thing I want my Republican colleagues to give me, one that I can go on to go campaign on and say we did. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done. That's from Chip Roy when he was on the floor of the House saying, we've done nothing. I can't even go campaign and say, look, to potential voters, I can't even say we accomplished this or that. It has been a year of them trying to protect an insurrectionist, a treasonous, twice impeached, 4 times indicted former president. And see, I always highlight that. People say, well, it sounds like you're taking sides. No, I think it's important to highlight what you're
facts.
dealing with.
Yep.
Right. You have to, as a journalist, you have to. And this man has been convicted by a civil jury, or found responsible by a civil jury of sexually assaulting a woman in order to pay her $5 million. His business, a judge said committed, quote, from the judge, massive business fraud. And they're about to ding him and his business for $250 million and kick him out of New York once and for all. So the context is so important.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, this is who the Republican majority in the House is taking their marching orders from.
And name, Stacey, one job where we could make $174,000 annually.
200 and change if you're the speaker.
Yeah, exactly. And not not perform, not do our job, but have all of the perks that come with being a member of Congress. A staff in
Being able to go
Washington, a
into
staff.
a theater and watch Beetlejuice and fondle your partner openly and smoke.
Yeah, and still remain in Congress. No, it's it's absurd.
Didn't have George Santos all year.
Yep. I mean, we had McCarthy, no longer a member of Congress, but at the beginning, next month will be exactly a year since we watched that 15-round circus. I mean,
15 rounds of
yeah, exactly. I mean, it was absolute nonsense. And I might add, the same Chip Roy who spoke so prophetically on the floor of the House, and you mentioned, he's absolutely a extremely conservative Republican, but he was factual on that. But this is the same Chip Roy last week who voted in favor of the investigation, impeachment inquiry of the president.
Which means that 2024 will be no different. They will not do any meaningful thing whatsoever. Maxwell Frost, the Democrat out of Florida, the young Gen Z freshman, he says, you either laugh or you cry. He said it's sad, and it just shows the Republican majority isn't fit to govern. It's just as simple as that. They didn't intend to govern. So anybody who thought that they were going to govern, that wasn't there. The point was obstruct, create chaos, get revenge as much as they could for Donald Trump. This is why, as you mentioned, you're seeing this impeachment situation. And if they can get it together in a timely fashion, they're going to make sure that they impeach Biden twice. If they can get this done timely.
Yeah, the only thing we have as Democrats in our favor is what the Republicans had in their favor with the two impeachments that you rightfully always reference when referring to Donald Trump. They do not have a majority in the Senate to convict, but he will be. I believe he'll be impeached, because I don't believe that there are enough Republicans, even those Republicans who won their seats in Biden districts, district that Biden carried, however close it was. I guess I'm Stacey, less surprised that we've come this far along with this impeachment, which has no merits whatsoever. Less surprised by that it's actually happening, and more surprised that it didn't happen earlier.
We listened to Vivek Ramaswamy at the top of this show, and I'm just thinking, where does he think he's so misguided and so delusional to think that Trump would even consider him as a vice president or even in this cabinet? You know what he's going to fit in if Trump takes over? Trump says he's going to be a dictator. Trump wants to take us all back to Reconstruction, if not worse, right? We know this. He's made no bones about it. He's been very, and this is why you got the wild racist people coming out of the woodworks, because they really want that and they believe it could happen. What does Vivek think? His father is not a citizen. His father's going to be among the first shipped away. or put in a cage somewhere. Vivek, does he not think that he'll be in the cotton fields at Trump Plantation
He
at
doesn't.
Mar-a-Lago?
He doesn't. Vivek does not view himself as a minority.
He doesn't, but he will
So
get that wake-up call.
absolutely, absolutely. And he's already gotten the wake-up call because his campaign is not getting any traction.
And so he's
So
making a
yeah,
desperate plea to be in Trump's favor.
exactly. But Trump will.
There are names for folks we used to call like that around the way. But anyway, go ahead.
No, Vivek. I mean, if God forbid Trump does get back in, I would not be surprised if he got a cabinet level appointment or a deputy, secretary
No, Trump's
somewhere.
gonna put him on a horse with a whip and say, "Mind those, people in the field." That's
Mhm.
gonna be his job, if anything.
Not even mind the people in the field. He's going to be in the field and he's going to be minded by someone. So that's
See?
what he's,
That's what I'm saying.
that's what he doesn't see.
It's just unbelievable. Look at this guy.
Who's this, Chip?
One thing. I
One
want
thing.
my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, one, that I can go campaign on and say we did. One. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done besides, well, I guess it's not as bad as the Democrats. One thing. I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing.
I mean,
You love to see it, though.
Yeah, the congressman's on point.
He is.
And I'm sure those Republicans who were in the chamber at that moment, as he looked at them, they looked at their shoes or looked at their notes or looked at their phone, not making eye contact. And nobody came on the floor, including the speaker. At that point, did we have Speaker Johnson, or was it one of the 2 or 3 interim speakers? Whatever it was, whoever was whoever was sitting in the big chair, nobody came. He did not rush to the floor to correct him because the congressman is right.
I was hoping that, like, while she's playing that she would play like the Fugees, "Killing Me Softly," and you hear Wycliffe saying, "One time."
Yeah, no, but again, these Republicans, have moments of, fleeting moments of courage. The congressman was right on point with everything that he said in that statement. Yet, he, is voting in support of this sham impeachment inquiry of the president. So.
Mike V says, "You remember when a Republican was playing Candy Crusher on his phone and could care less in Congress?" It's stuff like that. And Power 96, to your point, Austin, he said Chris Christie talks all of that junk, but went back being a MAGA Billy once Colorado removed Trump's name. He says, "I don't trust any of them."
Exactly. And Chris Christie, for all of his being on point and criticizing Trump as no other Republican candidate for the GOP nomination is doing, he'll take a position in the administration too.
Oh, without question.
If given the opportunity.
Without question. There's no question about that. Chris Christie got his feelings hurt a little bit because Trump talked about his weight. And I mean, look, Trump talked about Marco Rubio's wife and Ted Cruz's dad killing Kennedy and this and that. And they were right. They're still
all fell in line.
They all all in line. And Chris Christie, all he did was talk about he had too many cheeseburgers or something like that.
Yeah, you remember he talked about he said Ted Cruz's wife was ugly. Yet within,
and he wasn't lying, but anyway.
At the first date dinner, she was there at his side.
Right. They were kissing the ring.
Yeah.
They were
No,
kissing the
you know,
ring.
my significant other, if he had said that about my significant other, she'd have been like, "I'm not going to the White House, and guess what? Neither are you."
Not the-
That'd have been real. That'd have been a quick shutdown.
No, but those so when they start talking about the wife or the kids, that's when it gets physical.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Mm-hmm.
that's when the choking out comes. You know,
Mm-hmm.
talk all you
We
want.
call it choking out.
Yes, talk all you want about me or
Me,
whatever.
exactly,
But
exactly.
generally, men, you talk about the wife like that, and it's okay. You go and have dinner, and not only that, you support. Come on.
No, I mean, not only that, but you know, you go home, confront your wife, and you know, return to the office the next morning with no visible scars. I mean, that's
Oh gosh. Uh and Mike V says, if I was in Justice Thomas, I like that. I
I
would be
like that.
worried about
Injustice, Thomas.
yeah, I would be worried
Very good,
about
Mike.
other justices may look into bringing in Jeannie Thomas for January 6th now. Look, but they live a life where they feel like they're above
Above,
everything. They
the
can't
rules
be
don't
touched.
apply to them.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, they see themselves as so many, you know, Hollywood celebrities and sports celebrities. Well, you know, they view themselves as political celebrities
right.
or judicial, you know, celebrities. And the rules that apply to you and me don't apply to them. And this is the perfect environment to get away with that
Hmm.
nonsense.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the state of U.S. Politics, state of world politics, really, right? This is what it is. But Austin, some interesting news. The Biden administration launched a national law enforcement accountability database, a collection of records and which is aimed at bringing transparency to and documenting instances of police misconduct. Um, this is a tool, but the problem is it's not a tool that's public though, right? So the database would be kept privately. So I don't understand wholly. I don't understand the benefits of it. If it's just because we're still not going to know about police accountability unless
You put
they
them on blast.
decide, the DOJ decides to release it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I applaud the president and vice president for launching this database. But like you, I'm having trouble understanding, you know, where's the teeth in it for any meaningful type of enforcement. I mean, if it's going to be hidden and not come to the surface, then how are these officers going to be held accountable?
Exactly. And the other part about this, and I know that it's it's all he can do at this point without Congress, but this is the database will document instances of federal law enforcement misconduct, right? So that's not been our biggest problem, right? Including criminal convictions, suspensions and terminations, civil judgments, resignations while under investigation, and sustained disciplinary action based on serious misconduct. It will require federal law enforcement agencies to provide information about misconduct, but would not bar an individual with a record of misconduct from being hired or penalize agencies for hiring them.
By another police. Yep, yep, yep. So
So
yeah,
that's a problem.
again, where's the teeth?
Yeah. But okay, so Greer mentioned something there. And so sometimes you always got to look at okay, this is what we have, but what if we have this? And Donald Trump, you know, so this is what Biden's doing. He's because again, his strength, his authority, I should say, can only go but so far, right? Federally.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
Trump has said that he would indemnify the police. He would give them a license to do whatever. They already have it, but you're not going to be able to. You're not going to see any more prosecutions of police. He's like, we are going to shoot them in the streets. So in other words, forget about worried about whether or not you're going to get a fair trial. Courts are going to be useless in the Trump
Absolutely.
in a second
Absolutely.
Trump presidency.
This
We're
is
executing you for stealing, he said.
no, this is Donald Trump's vision for America. This Donald Trump is no different from the Donald Trump who first took the oath of office in January of 2017. He's no different from the Donald Trump who participated in discriminatory, housing practices against, blacks and minorities in Queens with his dad in the 1970s. I mean, this is who Donald Trump is, and his first term, and I'm specifically using the word term because if he gets back in office, we will not, to your point, Stacey, we will no longer be referring to his being in office as a term.
Nope.
That will be out the window. So America had better wake up and realize that when it comes to what he just said about the police, this is his vision for America. And some of the very same people who are, supporting this are going to be some of the very same victims of police abuse and have no recourse.
None whatsoever. None. So the database is a good idea, but it would be a great idea if this was all of law enforcement.
Agreed.
So down in Texas, of course, where everything is bigger.
Where else? Where else?
Greg Abbott signed into law a bill that makes entering Texas illegal, a state crime, which is an extraordinary step in the hard-fought legal battle between the state and the federal government over efforts to curtail illegal immigration. It was SB 4, which will now grant local law enforcement the power to arrest migrants and judges the ability to issue orders to remove them to Mexico. And of course, the Latino community in Texas is, of course, upset. That community makes up 40% of Texas's population.
What I am, and I was talking to my sister, Kim, about this a couple of weeks ago, when people, Trump and others, and now we're talking about Governor Abbott, consistently display such tales of hatred, for fellow human beings. I often, maybe it's the PK in me, but wonder, I mean, how did you get here? I mean, how do you have such hatred
It's right.
for fellow Americans in such a discriminatory, blatantly racist way? And don't get me wrong. I mean, I do think that something needs to be done to address immigration on our on our borders. And I know the president has been working very hard at that, but it's been limited by the Senate Republicans in particular. But this man who lost his ability to walk in a freak accident, jogging or walking, under a tree, in a thunderstorm, as I understand it. And the tree got struck by lightning and the branch came down and paralyzed him. Horrific incident for anybody. But instead of that incident, instead of making him more, human in his approach to life, and I have no idea what it was like before. when he had the ability to walk. All I can do is go by, what I see as a, man confined to a wheelchair, who's the most prominent and powerful elected official in the state of Texas. And everything that he does or says, politically, legislatively, executive order, as I guess this was an executive order. I'm not sure, but just comes from a place of bitterness and hatred.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is amazing. I'll tell you what else is amazing. It's one of these here we go again type things, really. And in New York, I'm going there with this reparations stuff. They're going to create a commission tasked with considering reparations to address the persistent harmful effects of slavery in New York under a bill signed into law yesterday by Governor Kathy Hochul. The bill signing, of course, we know, comes at a time when many states and towns have been saying we're going to study reparations. At some point, when you study for an exam, don't you take the test?
Exactly.
I mean, it's just people will say, well, you got to start somewhere. Well, here we are in 2023, a couple of days before 2024, pretty much, right? A week or so away from 2000. Slavery, 1827 in New York is when it ended. And really, it ended as far as being an institution. It didn't end for all intent and purposes, right? And we keep talking about we need to study it, and this is where, and I know people, especially on social media, the internet, always want to intentionally mistake in what you're saying. But this is the only way I know how to say it. We had the atrocious, disgusting situation of the Holocaust, right? I don't care what anyone says, right? So after the Holocaust, there wasn't Reconstruction for Jewish individuals. There wasn't Jim Crow for Jewish individuals. There wasn't this voting rights situation or equal rights situation movement that they had to go through and experience. And more importantly, or just as importantly, they were in a lot of ways repaired, right? You can't fully repair them for that Holocaust. No, just as you cannot fully repair Black people for slavery. But the problem is Black folks have the white slave master was given reparations when slavery ended. The problem is I'm not, but the problem is instead of repairing us or trying to repair us, they put up even more and more and more barriers.
Exactly.
Redlining, just all this discrimination. And then when they decide, okay, we're gonna do something about this back in the 70s, affirmative action thing or whatever, and now that's supposedly racist. Somehow that's racist to try and do something to not even level the playing field, because y'all have taken the playing field and changed that many, many times. We will never have a level playing field, but at least put us. See, that's the problem, though. When they put us on the field, we win.
And that's what they want to prevent.
Right.
Look, this. I mean, this, Stacey, is a symbolic step. But
Symbolic.
as we
And we're tired of
referenced earlier,
symbolism,
with
right?
regard to President Biden and the police database, I mean, where's the teeth in this?
Right.
Frankly, I'm more concerned, just being, blunt, with if I've got my facts right, New York State is about to begin the process of redistricting or drawing new,
Yes.
district lines. you know, if those lines are drawn in a way that takes away from our, black representation in Congress, which is not that, great. When you consider the entirety, you got Hakeem, you've got Greg Meeks, and I think that's it in terms of at least the black members of Congress, a few minority. But that, New York State, it's the congressional delegation is predominantly a white delegation, and nowhere near representative of the minority representation in that state. So if those lines are drawn differently in a way that is harmful to us as minorities, um, that's you know
Yeah.
I mean, to heck with the with the commission and studying what had been a 400 plus year issue, 300 plus year issue.
It's just, it's just ridiculous. To me, it makes us as African Americans, makes us look like we have our hand out, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we're not the ones who are putting forth this stuff, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Especially studies, commissions. We
Yeah.
don't need studies and commissions.
How long?
Look at the
How,
history.
yeah. I mean, I didn't. I mean, how long before they're supposed to come up with recommendations? At least
Well, so
a
this is
year.
like, yeah, well, 18 months, I think, or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we're comfortably after the election when they come up with
But
recommendations.
but
So.
Austin, here's the thing with that. So as you notice, like California, their commission came out with this huge thing that it should be getting millions or whatever, and plus this, that, whatever the other. But as these reparation commissions, Sheila Jackson Lee's been talking about it for years, and in fact, the federal HR 40 dates back to the 80s. But as you see more and more jurisdictions talk about or even consider commissions for reparations, what have you noticed? You notice that, okay, we got rid of affirmative action, right? And they're using that to get rid of other things. You don't
Absolutely.
think this fits in their definition of affirmative action?
Absolutely.
So my point is, go ahead and pass it. Go ahead and get to the verge of saying, okay, we're going to give you reparations. They will shut that down in a heartbeat, saying that's affirmative action. You can't
Mhm,
do it.
mhm,
And
mhm.
is Kathy Hochul or Gavin Newsom or are they going to fight that?
Nope.
They're going to fight to say, no, we're going to give them the money. We're going to give them the tools or whatever. We're going to stop redlining and stop discriminating. We're going to stop with the appraisal discrimination and the home loan discrimination. Navy Federal Credit Union. We just did
Yeah,
that
yeah,
story.
yeah. Last week. Yep. Earlier this week. Yep.
So it's nonsense upon nonsense. Al Sharpton standing there with the governor signing this bill. Come on, that guy, wherever the camera goes, give me a break. Do something meaningful. Instead of continuing to enrich yourself. Give me a break. Don't get me started on
Tell us,
Al.
tell us how you really feel.
Don't get me started.
I'm almost afraid to ask, based on your reaction to the Reverend. I'm almost afraid to ask your thoughts on that. If your thoughts have changed on that pop icon.
See, Austin, I don't think you were invited here to cause this type of consternation.
Stacey, your whole body language just
It's
changes
just
when I
awful.
go there.
It's just awful. I wonder if she's on Epstein's list.
Ooh. Excuse me.
Everybody's cringing. Everybody's like clenching and shaking and shivering. A federal judge in New York has ordered a vast unsealing of court documents that is going to happen early next year that will make public the names of scores of Epstein's associates. The documents are part of a settled civil suit alleging Epstein's one-time girlfriend and paramour, Ghislaine Maxwell, Ghislaine, how you say her name. She facilitated the abuse of Virginia Giuffre. And so this goes back to like Prince Andrew and stuff,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the lawsuit there. Of course, Maxwell, she's serving 20 years. Epstein, well, sooner or later, we'll find out what really happened to Epstein.
Oh no, he was taken out, it appears now, for no reason.
Right.
No, he was no, that was calculated. That was a hit.
Mhm.
The two security guards, just happened to be playing chess, or
Playing.
they told them to go stand in a corner and stare at the wall for 15 minutes, and if you're telling anybody, we know where to find you. No, he did not commit suicide. He was killed for precisely this reason, to what they thought ensure that this black book or white book or whatever kind of book it was with all of these details would never see the light of day.
The girlfriend, Maxwell, this got to be a sort of a relief for her too, because she won't necessarily have that big target on her back anymore, because she's another one who knows the names, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it necessarily takes her, the dot off of her back. I mean, I hope nothing, to be clear, I hope nothing happens to her. But once these names come out, and the reaction is going to have, not only the United States but around the world, is going to be incredible. And hopefully nothing will happen to her.
And the judge gave us a heads up too on some of those who are in. Quietly gave a heads up in her ruling. First of all, she said, number one, just to be clear, that she's waiting till January 1st to release the names, just to give anybody who objects a chance to state why they object, right? But the clue that she gave was this. She said some of the individuals have given media interviews, so their name should not stay private. So you think
Agreed.
about who's been interviewed, who's
Agreed.
spoken publicly about it.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. So we can start combing, the archives and see who's been talking the last couple of years.
Well, it's going to be a nervous Christmas for some folk who thought that this issue was behind them, and there's going to be a lot of not explaining but planing in some households.
Power 96 says, what is the over under on the people that will be canceled? Oh man. So this all stems from, I alluded to the Prince Andrew lawsuit that was settled in 2017. But you know what? Now the chickens have coming home to roost.
Well, the thing about Prince Andrew is there's no more political or any kind of further damage that can come to him. I mean, his name was one of the first ones leaked or whatever, and no one would be surprised. So he's gonna have a good Christmas, but some of the others whose names I have heard might very well be on the list, as I'm sure you've heard. They got some planning to do.
Yeah, they got a whole lot of explaining. But I thought this is the biggest uh-oh moment there is right now.
Exactly.
Oh man.
And one of those when we say, "What did you just say?" Yes, one of those moments.
You got folks changing their names right now.
Exactly.
Legally changing I don't know that guy.
XX. Who the hell is XX? Don't worry.
And see, and finally on that topic, when the police say you have a right to remain silent, that's not the only time you have a right to remain silent.
Yeah.
And so y'all who've been yapping to the media, because what it is to Austin is that there were some who were quick to denounce Epstein to try and cover themselves up.
Exactly.
So they had to get in front of the cameras.
Yep. And now, Epstein can't defend you.
Nope. Look at it. Look at that picture.
Yeah. I mean,
And I've been seeing a lot of that.
Yep. And if Epstein were alive today, Trump would still pose with him and ask for his vote.
Or a campaign contribution. At least, right?
Exactly.
Oh, gosh. Well, it's going to be interesting to see all of this stuff unfolds as we head into 2024. Lots ahead of us, Austin. So we'll be calling on Austin Cooper a lot because Austin brings some insight here. So
I appreciate you, brother. And thank you, Griff.
And say hi to your mom.
Thank you. I will.
And your daughter. How's your daughter?
Ashley's fine. Ashley started, after, was in teaching English in Seoul for 8.5 years. So she's home with my ex out in Rockville and started a job this week as a legal assistant at a law firm. So she's interested in exploring the law.
Awesome. That is the world of Austin Cooper. We love it.
I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for joining. Let it be known. We'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely.